thank you for showing up for this talk that I've very much been looking forward to, not only just the last few weeks, but probably last 9 years, been looking forward to having a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Very excited for this. It seems that a lot of people know Basecamp, know 37signals already, so perhaps we don't have to do too much of an introduction to our guest today. We've got an hour-long session here, so very excited for this, and hopefully we can go deep on a lot of stuff. And we want to save probably the last 15 minutes for audience questions. So start thinking about those throughout, and we'll come to you, and you'll have the opportunity to ask Jason anything. Hopefully something relating to the talk, but literally anything. I'm sure he's going to be pretty open. But yeah, let's get to it. So Jason, something I would say that, and maybe you agree, that you're known for some contrarian views, certainly in how to build a business. And actually, you're co-founder of 37signals for 24 years, which could arguably also be contrarian in what I see from longevity of founders these days. I mean, I speak to founders who are burnt out after 5 years and want to sell, or obviously if they're on the venture path, it's typically like 10 years before they sell the business. So how comes the longevity? How comes you haven't sold at 5 years or 10 years and you're still going, and how long is it going to go?
Yeah, it's a great question. For us, we don't really think about longevity or short-term or long-term. I just think about year to year. And as long as we keep liking what we're doing and things keep going well and we can continue to make money and be profitable, we're going to keep doing it until we just don't find it fun anymore. Once it's not fun, then we'll have to figure out something else to do. But it remains fun. It's super fun to write books, make new products, poke the industry a little bit, stand for something a little bit different than everybody else does in the industry, and it's been fun. So that's it. I mean, like, for example, it's a great question, but people always ask that, and I'm always curious about, like, would you ask someone the same question if they were playing guitar? Like, why would you play guitar for 25 years? Why not give it up after 5? And it's the same thing as because if you enjoy it, you want to keep doing it. Why would you want to get into something to give it up? I've never understood the mentality of getting into something to give it up.
Makes a lot of sense, and I guess, and also you hear the question a lot that founders, when they're contemplating selling their business, it's like, well, what would I actually do next? And some people have an answer, but a lot of people don't, right?
I don't. Yeah. I would have no idea what to do next. Yeah. The only thing I know I would do is not start another company. Yeah. I'm almost certain I would never do that again. Yeah. I like my company a lot, but I wouldn't do it again. So I have no idea what to do next. I'm guaranteed positive it wouldn't be as good as what I've been doing. Like, lightning has struck, so you might as well hold on to that. And that's my feeling. And I don't know what else I would do. Actually, I'm unemployable. I wouldn't want to sell the business and go work for someone else. I wouldn't want to do that either, which you usually have to do. So why not just keep doing it until we can't?
Yeah, fair. Good stuff. And look, you've also relatively sort of newish book out. I think it came out last year, right? It doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah, a couple years ago, yes.
A couple of years ago. There we go.
Yep.
And I've almost finished reading it. Probably like 75%. I could have just lied to you and said 100. But I've almost finished it. One thing, I mean, there's obviously a lot of interesting things there that actually kind of almost make me want to work at Basecamp because it looks like a pretty great place to work. One thing that I wanted to ask you is that you don't believe in goal setting. And personally as a founder, and I'm sure there are a lot here, we always set goals for the business, annual, quarterly, even like 3-year goals and so on. So let's kind of hear your views, like why you don't set goals, because that's definitely contrarian, I think.
It is. I don't like the idea of goals generally because you either hit them and then you're like, well, I didn't set a high enough goal, or you don't hit them and then you're upset at yourself. I don't like that as a motivation. It's kind of, in my opinion, sort of two bads versus any goods there. I just feel like you're best off just doing the best work you can and letting the chips fall where they may. And this kind of came to me when I used to run a lot, and I was trying to like hit a certain time. So I was trying to get like just a 6-minute mile or something like that. And I'd go out for a run, and I'd run a 6:04 or 6:05, and I would be upset at myself. I'm like, I didn't run a 6-minute mile. I ran a 6:04. And I was asking myself kind of the wrong questions. It wasn't like, did I run a 6-minute? It should have been like, did I enjoy the run? Did I get good exercise? Did I get some fresh air? Did I enjoy it? Do I want to do it again? Those are the questions to ask. That's not about a goal. It's about a feeling, a general feeling. So it didn't hit my goal, which was 6 minutes, but those weren't the thing. That wasn't what was important to me. It was the other things. And I kind of brought that into business, thinking that you set up some quarterly target or yearly target or whatever, and you hit it or you don't. But is it really, if you, let's say you hit it, but you hated doing it to hit it. You hated what you had to do to hit it. Is it worth hitting it? I would say no, it's not. It's worth finding the things that you want to do and trying to make that work. But the goals are just made up numbers that you aim for, and then you either hit them or you don't, and that's just not that interesting to me.
I understand.
Let me add one more thing. We do have one goal every year, which is to be profitable. So as long as we make more money than we spend, we're good. Everything else, it doesn't matter to me. And I don't care if we make more profit this year than last year. I just want to make more than we spend, and I'm happy with that.
So without goals then, how do you set direction? Because often they're the points of like, hey, this is where we're going.
Yes. Direction is set internally around ideas. Like we want to deliver this, we want to build this thing, we want to make this thing, we want to make this thing better. There's no, objectively, it's hard to measure if it is better. You could say, well, you could measure customer acquisition or new customers or conversion. You can measure all these things. For me, better is more of a feeling. It always comes back to feeling and gut for me. Do we feel proud about the work that we've built, that we've made? Do we feel good? Are we hearing good things from our customers? It's more qualitative than quantitative stuff for me. So you set the direction by talking about where you want to head, which direction you want to go, but it does not come with numbers. It just comes with, as long as we're profitable again.
I mentioned this yesterday, but like we're obviously speaking to our customers a lot. We're understanding what are the common problems at the moment. People and hiring is always, I think, an age-old problem and still remains with the audience here today. So we'd love to really understand, how Basecamp views kind of hiring. So I think you're, if I remember correctly, you kind of hire when it hurts, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you've always done that, but perhaps if you can explain that, and then how, like, when it's hurting, how do you go about that kind of hiring process?
Yeah. So fundamentally, we want to keep our company as small as possible. So that's the aim for us. So if there's a goal, if we're talking goals, but it's not a number. Just we want to stay as small as possible. The fewest number of people we need is what we want. And that means that we always hire when it hurts, which is we're always short a few people. I like that feeling of tension, and we can't quite do everything we want to do. That's a better place to be than to invent work for people to do to keep them busy. So we're always on the short side of things, I would say. And then as far as the hiring process goes, the most important thing for us when hiring is to look at actual work. So if we're going to hire a designer, for example, let's say we have like 5 finalists. We hire them for a week to do a project for us, which we pay them for. And then we talk to them about the work itself, and we get into the work, and we push back on the work, and critique the work, and see how they roll with it and flow with it and handle criticism and critique and that sort of thing. And to me, that's where the nuances are in people. That's what really differentiates people, is how they're able to think about their work, talk about their work, deal with criticism, that sort of thing. And that's not the kind of thing that you typically get unless you look at actual work. So if you look at resumes or do interviews, you're not really getting to the real thing that they're going to do for you. No one's doing an interview for you. No one's doing a resume for you. They're doing work for you. So you want to get as close to the real thing as possible.
And I guess kind of on the flip side, right, in terms of letting people go, conversations, again, over the last 24 hours, there are a lot of companies here under 10 million in revenue, but there are a lot that have ambitions to go to 100, and some of the speakers that have done that. And on that journey, they're constantly refreshing the leadership team after like certain milestones, probably refreshing other parts of the team. How do you view that if you're obviously not setting goals in terms of like, do we have the right people now for where we're going?
It's a good question, and the answer is we don't know where we're going, and I know this sounds weird, but we know where we are, and we get to where we're going by being good at what we're doing now. So we just kind of keep doing the things we do now, and we know that we know who we need now. We know what kind of team we need now. We're not thinking about 4 years from now we need this team, and so let's start hiring for that team. We have hired some new positions over the past couple of years, which we didn't really have before. We added a COO, which we didn't have before. We added a head of marketing, which we'd never really had. We've kind of run the company forever with essentially no marketing department. We hired a recruiter because we were hiring some more a few years ago. So we will bring on some people, and sometimes we're going to have to shed some of those roles if they don't make sense anymore. Those roles have stayed with us, but there's been other roles. We hired in-house counsel for the first time. We have a lot of complexity in our business. We have 16 people. We have employees in 16 different countries. There's a lot of things to work out when you have that. And so we were using an outside law firm, which is very, very expensive. So we decided to hire someone internally. But we found after a year that there just wasn't enough work for her. It wasn't really a full-time job. And so that position was eliminated essentially. So you come and you go, you figure it out, you figure out who you need now. Sometimes you do anticipate it a little bit, but I found that anticipation, you can end up growing into what you anticipate, which is not really ultimately where you need to be. It's just sort of what you've set up, so you grow into this new place, but ultimately it's not really what you want. I much prefer to focus on what do we need right now versus what do I think we might need later.
And letting people go, or eliminating eliminating the position, but letting people go.
That position is gone. We didn't rehire for that position.
When you do it, how does Basecamp go about sort of letting people go?
Well, it's hard. I mean, always, there's no good way to do it. We've always tried to say there shouldn't be a surprise. It should never be a surprise, but it always still kind of is to people, understandably so. It's very hard. I think the most important thing is to be direct and quick about it. This is one of the hardest things to do as a manager, but when you make the decision, first of all, there's usually steps. It's like you put someone on a performance improvement plan. If you have to, you give them a shot, you help them through it. But if there's some place where it's clearly not going to work out, and it could be because they're a great fit for someone else, but not for us. It could be we don't need that role anymore. There could be a lot of different reasons. But when you make the decision, I think the most important thing is to be very direct, clear, honest, and quick. What I've done in the past, unfortunately, when I wasn't good at this, was I kind of entered it almost like it was going to be a negotiation, giving the person a sense that maybe they could fight their way back in a sense, or argue their way back in, or persuade their way back in. But that's a really bad place to be. It's very dishonest, ultimately. I mean, you just want to be like, hey, look, we've made a decision. The decision is final. This is the decision. And then we have severance, and we have other things like that as well. We take good care of people. We try to do that, but part of that is being honest.
I want to switch gears a little bit into product, because I want to cover a variety of things.
I don't like to talk about firing, if you don't mind.
I mean, it's one of the smoothest segues I've had from...
it's hard.
Yeah.
It sucks.
So would love to know how you think about when to ship the release versus waiting for more features to come.
Yeah, so like version 1 of something, a brand new product, for example. Dissatisfying answer again, it comes down to feel. It's first of all, we only build products that we're going to use ourselves. So I don't have to imagine what someone else needs. I frankly don't care what other people need for version 1. Version 1 is our version. We make it for ourselves, and we know when it does what it needs to do for us. Then we put it out there. And then once it's out there, of course, people check it out and start to use it and start to buy it. Then we get feedback in, and then we make the product for them also. But version 1 is for us. Sure. And that's a very important thing, because I think that it's very hard to judge quality and fit. Is this better? Can you guys hear me better? Hard to judge quality and fit by proxy, meaning imagining if it works for someone else. And you can ask them questions, but it's still not always people aren't good at giving you answers to that question. So what's nice is you know personally if something's going to work or not. And that's how we build our version 1s. We tend not to spend more than a year on anything from start to finish for a new product. So I want to get things out in a year, unless it's really unusual, but usually a year max. And then we iterate every 6 weeks. We add new things over time.
Speaking of new products, you launched Hey.com a few years ago,
yes.
Right? What are the lessons from the launch to obviously where it is now? Like how's it going?
Great. Hey's going really well. I mean, Hey was a pretty big gamble. So for those of you who don't know, Hey.com is an email service we launched. It's a pay service. Most people don't pay for email. It's $100 a year. And it's very, very different version of email on a lot of different fronts. And so we knew that this is going to be something that really hit with some people, and other people were baffled by it. Like, why would I pay money for email? Gmail is fine. What are you doing? This is stupid, right? And that's fine. We don't need to make everyone happy, right? But we did know that we needed to have a calendar in the product, but we didn't launch with the calendar because the calendar was going to take a lot longer to also build. So that was one of the features that we held back. Eventually, we added the calendar this year. But it's been great. I mean, Hey is it's one of these weird products where there's just Basecamp has fans, but Hey has these super fans because it's so unusual in the way it handles email that when it really fits you, it fits like a glove in a way you've never seen anything else. And that's the kind of exciting product I like to build. And so I really feel good about how we hit with Hey. But yeah, it's also a struggle. It's not like Basecamp is our biggest hit. Hey is a hit, but not anywhere near as Basecamp. It's only a few years old. But it's a bigger struggle of a product because we're really competing against Google, Microsoft, Apple, basically, and they're all free. So it's quite a hard uphill battle, but it's good for us.
I think it's a three-part question around pricing here. But so when you've got a new product, how do you think about pricing it? How often do you change your pricing, and how do you go about that?
Pricing. So first of all, pricing has to make sense. So this is the other thing. Like I see a lot of people just make up prices online. Everyone kind of prices their stuff at the same place. $10 a user, whatever it is. And it's like, if that doesn't work for your economics, you're screwed. So it's very important for your prices to work, which sounds ridiculous that I even have to say this, but it does have to be said. So we're making sure that whatever we kind of estimate, if we can pick up tens of thousands, we usually say like, we need to have tens of thousands of customers. If we have tens of thousands of customers at this price point, this is going to work for us. And we pick a number that feels relatively fair, something we would pay. We also limit our prices on Basecamp specifically. Nobody can pay us more than $299 a month. So I don't want some customers who pay us a lot and some who pay us a little, because when you do that, you're essentially just in business to service the biggest customers that you have. And you're going to make a product that only fits the biggest customers you have. I don't really want big customers. I don't like big companies. We make stuff for smaller companies, so we limit the amount anyone can pay us so no one has control over us. So that's another thing we do with pricing. Changing pricing, we don't change it that often. When we do, we almost always only change it for new customers, so we grandfather existing customers in. For the first time in about 15 years, we just increased prices on Basecamp for existing customers, but it's 15 years, the same price. And so whenever we're going to do pricing experiments, we do them on new customers, which makes it a lot easier. If it doesn't work, we didn't screw ourselves over with converting 100,000 other people over to a different price, and we don't piss off people who are really happy with what they're paying for. I'd rather just keep existing customers happy. It's hard enough, everyone knows, to get a customer. Like, the thing people hate more than anything is paying more for something than they paid yesterday. Like, why did it go up? And people get pissed. Even if it's $1, they get upset. So I'd rather just keep them happy, make more money off newer customers, and do it that way.
You mentioned that 37signals builds products for yourselves first before going out to the customers. How do you go about finding who your customers are, who your ICP is?
Yeah. Historically, we built a big audience of like-minded small business owners, entrepreneurs, design firms, that kind of thing, kind of people like us. And we share a lot. We've written books. We build this big audience. And over time, what ends up happening is that this audience, what's great about an audience is that they're there for you, and they're waiting for you to tell them something. So we know that we're building stuff for small businesses. We are a small business. We know what small businesses need, and it's not watered-down versions of bigger products. It's not watered-down versions of enterprise products. It's a different mentality, different mindset. And we built this group that we know, and when we launch Hey, we can talk to Basecamp customers about it. They're probably the same people who might want to buy Hey. We just launched a new thing called Campfire, which is a small business chat tool, which you only pay for once. It's not a subscription. It's one time. That's just another thing we could have talked about with pricing. These are things that we want, and we just know now, having been in this business 25 years, that there are a lot of people just like us, a lot of companies just like us, who crave the kinds of things that we make for companies just like us. So we get the word out on Twitter, we get the word out on LinkedIn, we get the word out that way, and then word just kind of spreads, and we grow organically, basically. We don't buy any ads. We don't advertise. We've experimented with that here and there, but mostly it's organic growth and word of mouth.
I guess touching on the organic growth, because I know from your content at the 37signals blog, you built up this huge audience. Are you still finding, I guess in terms of your go-to-market then and the content, is it still coming through that? Is it still coming through the blog posts? Obviously, it's a very saturated content marketing world at the moment. So how do you cut through the noise right now?
Well, it's become harder. Yeah. It's definitely become harder. There's just a million people in every industry these days, right? And a million people, like we've been content marketing, like we've been doing that forever. I still don't like the term, frankly, but we've been writing forever and sharing forever. But yeah, there's more of it. And I think it's not a quantity game. To me, it's you've got to, the way you cut through is by saying something interesting, saying something from a unique point of view, being consistent or changing your mind and being open about that. It's not about shoveling out drivel that no one cares about and just trying to like dominate by publishing 3 things a day that no one cares about. I'd rather publish 1 thing every 4 weeks that people really, really care about and again, has a unique point of view and takes a position that you're not going to typically hear. But all that being said, it's hard. It's harder. Definitely harder.
Would that be your typical cadence, like once every 4 weeks, or? I
tend to write something once every week or so. Basically, on Twitter or X, I post far more frequently than that. But I don't have a schedule. We don't have an editorial schedule or any editorial. We don't have any dedicated writers. We just I write. David writes. David is my business partner. We do the majority of the writing. We write when we have something to say. We don't write because we need to write something. We write when we have something to say. That is the core of how we do it, and again, we do it and see what happens. But yes, but it's harder these days to stand out for sure. Yeah.
Hopefully not a leading question, but this talk is called Decisions from the Gut. So we'd love to know how you make important decisions, and how do you know when they're right?
I try not to make important decisions.
Okay.
In that. Really, truly important decisions are really quite rare. And then when we have to make those, we deliberate a lot and think a lot about it. And then still, it's, you're informed by all sorts of things, intuition, gut, observation, data. It could be a million different things. And whatever it is, it's a million more that you're unaware of. We are all influenced by things that are out of our control that we don't even realize. We don't know that this thing I heard really is in my subconscious and pushing me in this direction or that direction. But we try to make decisions that we can reverse easily. I think that's the most important thing, and very rarely do we make a decision that we cannot reverse. And that takes a lot of the pressure off. I think people have a hard time making decisions when they know that if they make this decision, the next 3 years are set, or we're going to hire 80 people, or like those are huge decisions. And I try to make decisions that are just 6 weeks at a time. So typically, we make decisions roughly every 6 weeks about the next 6 weeks worth of business. There's sometimes you have to make a bigger decision, looks a little bit further, but by keeping them closer, they're more accurate, they're not as consequential, and we feel more comfortable making lots of them versus having to make these big important ones every once in a while.
They say, and I think it's right most of the time, that data trumps opinion, but if there's no data to contribute to your point of view, then how do you make decisions?
So I don't believe I don't believe the premise, or well, I don't believe data trumps opinion.
Okay.
And the reason why is if you, I think it's a convenient way of thinking about it, but I don't think it's the honest way of thinking about it. Here's what I mean. Not that you're lying, but just like
I'm not.
When you hire an executive, any level, let's say some C-level or up, what do you hire on? You typically would hire on judgment and experience. That's ultimately what it is. You're not hiring, can this person read a spreadsheet? Like a lot of people can read a spreadsheet. You're like, where have they been? What have they done? What have they seen? What have they grown? And all those experiences are in the past. They're not present, and they have nothing to do with your current business. But what they do is they're collections. They create judgment and experience that is what the people can draw on to make decisions down the road. So if we're hiring truly on experience and judgment, these are not data-driven things. These are human intuition, gut-based things. And that person will look at data, and they'll look at the market, and they'll look at whatever they need to look at. But ultimately, if you just want to make a decision on data, then you should let machines make the decisions. And maybe they should. I don't know. But if you're going to have a human making a decision, the truth is, in my opinion, it's still judgment and experience, which are gut-driven, amorphous, feely things.
How many bootstrappers do we have in the audience? See, show of hands.
Those are my people. I love bootstrappers.
I mean, it seems about a third.
That's us. I'll raise my hand too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just gone up. So, but you've bootstrapped your way to financial freedom, right? And I guess actually for most entrepreneurs, whether bootstrapped or venture-backed, when they look for the exit, ultimately what you get from the exit provides you that financial freedom. But obviously you haven't exited, and you bootstrap your way to be in this great position, well earned. Tell us all, how can we do this? Like, how do we, what's secrets to bootstrapping to financial freedom?
Well, first of all, you got to keep your costs as low as possible, which sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but I feel like in this industry, people don't think that way. They try to hire as many people as they can, they spend a bunch of money. You should be really frugal, incredibly frugal when you're getting going. Smallest possible team, don't waste money on branding, over-branding things and hiring a design firm to do fancy. Just keep it simple, right? Cheap, simple, and do as much for yourself as you can. The moment you start outsourcing to contractors or consultants, the bills just go flying. So, and this also includes lawyers, like contracts. People spend a lot of money on contracts and terms of service and all these policies. It's like, don't spend money on it. Just rip someone else's off and just live with that. Like, you've got to be very scrappy and very, very tight in the beginning, I think. And that establishes an outlook, a mindset that you carry with yourself. You have to get good at learning how to make money. If you have an abundance of something early on, you don't have to get good at that. So a lot of entrepreneurs who raise money early, they're never good at making money. And then right now, when money's not available, they're screwed. The bootstrappers who work their ass off and trying to figure out how to make money now are practicing the skill that they're going to need forever. The other thing I would suggest is corporate structure-wise, keep it like we're an LLC in the US, and I know they don't have this in overseas. There's probably some equivalent, but very simple structure. It's a pass-through entity. Whatever profits left over at the end of the year goes to the member holders or member unit holders, and that's where you can begin to pull out money every year. Versus in a traditional company, you put money back in and you keep reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. And I don't like that. That's not a good bet, in my opinion. I think you should be pulling out money along the way and leaving some, but pulling some out along the way so you have something to show for your work, because there's a very good chance it's not going to work out. And to wait 8 years and keep investing, and then it goes to zero, it's really a crappy situation a lot of people find themselves in. So the financial freedom part is take money out as you go. Take money out of your business as you go. Don't throw it all back in. That's my advice, at least.
Who agrees with that? Take it out as you go?
Smart. I mean, I think it's smart. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. Two more questions from me before I want to throw it out to the audience.
Can I actually add one more thing? The other thing I want to make a point about is, even though I'm saying be frugal and be sort of tight in a sense, you want to take risks, obviously. What you want to be careful of is not putting yourself at risk, though. So there's a difference between taking a risk, which is like launching a new product or trying a new thing, and then making a decision that's going to put you at risk, that if this doesn't work, you're done. Try to avoid those kind of decisions at all costs. So it's a lot about avoidance, actually. Staying in business is a lot about avoiding stupid things and making dumb mistakes. Keep it simple. Think about basic business 101, make more than you spend, don't do something stupid, and you have a much better shot.
Can you share maybe a lesson around a hard decision that you've had to make that was perhaps low impact at the time, but caused difficulties later down the line?
A big decision? I can tell you, so we're talking about money here for a second. So in 2006, we sold a piece of our company early. So we started this company in 1999. Basecamp, the software, came out in 2004. In 2006, we sold a small piece of the company to Jeff Bezos. This money went to me and David, not into the company. So the company's always been bootstrapped, custom revenue driven. But what we did in that case was we took a little bit of money off the table and put it in our pockets. And that helped give us a lot of confidence that if this thing fizzles out, we're okay. It gave us the confidence to take more risk, actually, and to do bigger, bolder things, because we'd already taken some money out. I just can't recommend enough taking some money out of your company. it will make you feel like you can do more things versus being afraid. When you let it all ride and you keep doubling down and doubling down and double, like if you were to go to a casino and win money and just double down every bet, it's terrifying. And you might make it big for a minute, but you're going to lose. The odds are against you, and the odds in Vegas are really damn good. They're like close to 50-50, like 48-52. Business is not that way. It's worse. It's like, what, 1 in 10, or I don't know how many companies, mostly don't make it.
Yeah.
So people are doubling down with horrific odds. So I would put some money in your pocket if you make some. That decision really helped us feel confident in saying, let's take some more chances, and if this all goes to hell, at least we have nothing to show for it, or we don't have nothing to show for it.
Have you made any acquisitions over the last 24 years?
No acquisitions. We've
No.
sold a couple products and services that we made, but we've never acquired anybody.
Any reason as to
Any
not
reason?
do that? Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
I wouldn't know how to do it. All the acquisitions I've seen have slowed the company down. So I've seen. I've been on a few boards, and I've seen this happen. Like, everyone gets excited about this acquisition. They're going to give us all these new capabilities. It's going to be amazing, all the synergies, like all the things. And they don't realize that when you mix cultures and mix products and mix code bases and mix visions, it just creates this tornado. And it slows everything down. It mires everything down. The gears start to grind. And I'm sure there are great examples of mergers, but I have seen very few where it really panned out in the way they'd hoped it would. And it's typically not good for customers either, because usually a product is killed at some point and they kind of acqui-hire and that sort of thing. So I don't think it's worth it. I think I'd rather learn how to build the capabilities we need in-house rather than try to think that we can buy the capabilities. I just don't really think you often can.
Okay, want to put some questions to the audience. So Jovi's got the mic at the back. Do we have any questions for Jason? We have one. We got one over there. Okay.
Thanks for Basecamp. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and your lessons and learnings through the years. When you were starting in 2000, 2004, did you have a vision like you're seeing it today? We want to be profitable. We want to keep it small, and all the lessons. Your current rules of life. Did you have those rules of life when you started? And how did you think about what the future would be back then?
Yeah. No, except for, like, we wanted to be profitable. So I wanted to build a fundamentally sound, profitable business. My dad gave me some advice way, way, way back when, which is that no one ever went broke making a profit. So, like, that's been my guiding light, frankly, like, on the business side. Just make more money than you spend. So that was always there. And it's been there. We've been profitable every year for 25 years in a row. So that's key for us. As far as all these ideas that we have and the books we've written and the points of view, these have been developed. Some of them were there, but many of them have been developed over time. We had sort of theories about some of these things, and we tried some stuff and learned some stuff and then codified some of those things and put those into books or articles or whatever. But there's no vision in terms of the kind of company we wanted to build or the kinds of products we wanted to make or where we were going to be in 10, 20 years. I mean, I don't find it worth contemplating, frankly, because who knows? Like, does anyone here know? Like, think about, I'm 50, I just turned 50. When I was 40, if I had to imagine what I would be doing when I was 50, first of all, there's no reason to even imagine. It's a waste of time. Like, what's the difference? You have 10 years to get there. And second of all, you don't know what your life's going to be like. I have 2 kids now. I didn't have any kids then. How was I going to know I was going to have kids? There's so many things that can change in a matter of years that I don't think it's worth putting the energy into imagining down the road. I think keep your eye on the ball, and the ball is right in front of you. All you can do is worry about basically right now and do the best you can. And then a bunch of nows pile up into the future. You just like one now after the other. And then eventually, somehow, you magically get there or you don't. But I don't think we're here because we thought 25 years ahead. We didn't think 25 years ahead. We thought like a day at a time, basically, and that was all we did.
Gentleman in the front.
I want to add too. This is just like this is my experience. I'm not saying this is the only way, the right way, the way you should do it. I'm sharing sort of what's worked for us. Hopefully there's something in there for you guys. But there's a lot of different ways to do all these things. And nobody knows really how to do anything. Like there's just, we all have an experience. Something works or it doesn't work. All the variables were unique to that specific experience in that specific time with the people you were working with. Could I replicate this whole thing again? Absolutely not. So take all the advice you hear from anybody with a grain of salt and figure it out your own way, I think.
Yeah. I really appreciate like your philosophies and perspective on business. You talked earlier about not setting goals, and I agree with that. But at the same time, you made the analogy of running a 6-minute mile and possibly running a 6:04 and not meeting that target. Do you guys track like at least where you are? Because even though you don't set the goal of hitting the 6-minute mile per se, it's good to measure where you're at to know that you're either incrementally progressing or staying stagnant, right? So do you guys constantly track certain data points within the business to at least measure yourself to stay the same or incrementally improve?
We do measure a lot of things, but it's not to use as a rudder to aim the business. So I'm just making up numbers here. Let's say last year we grew 12%. If we only grow 11% this year, I'm okay with that. Like I don't need to beat last year. Well, maybe. I mean, it's growth, but it's less growth. Yes, it's growth, but it's less growth than last year. So we don't want to shrink ultimately, but if we shrink a year, 2 or 3, that could be okay as well. It just sort of all depends. I look at it like over the long run, is our trajectory headed in the right direction? And year to year, we're making more money than we spend. Those are the things. But yeah, we look at all sorts of conversion rate. We're always trying to improve that because that's just healthy. It's a healthy business. It's just like the same as, probably don't eat a Big Mac all day long. Like you want to try to eat healthy, exercise, take care of yourself. That's what we're doing with our business, trying to take care of the business. So by doing that, we want to make sure that if a customer comes to our front door and they don't buy, that could just be because they were curious, or maybe we did something wrong. We can learn a little bit more about that and make a better sale. So we're aiming to do better, but not to hit a number. But we do want to do better, so we want to see how we're doing. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Jason, thanks for the wisdom. I had a follow-up to the Jeff Bezos investment.
Yes.
What were you guys at in revenue at 37signals when that investment happened? And then how'd you think through, it's probably a bit of a personal choice, hey, if we could take $1 million off the table each, that makes sense for us, where we feel comfortable, we can kind of go in and de-risk ourselves. So if you could share more on that, please.
Yeah, what I can't share is the investment number, but I can tell you, I believe we were doing maybe about $1 million a year at that point. Something like that, maybe 2, I think, is where we were at. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly. And so the investment was for a slice of the company. The valuation was complete BS, as all valuations are. Jeff was like, I need some valuation on this. I go, all right, I don't know, we'll make something up. Because like we'd only been in business for 2 years. We're doing like $1 million or 2, and clearly the potential was much greater, but it was so early that there wasn't a track record, so we like made up a number, and we all laughed about it because it's sort of stupid, but we had to back into an investment that made sense for him, essentially. The whole thing is such a sort of a silly dance, and everyone sort of knows, but we came up with a number. It was stupid. I mean, compared to today's valuations, it was not stupid, but today's valuations are insane, I think, for a lot of companies. Anyway, and then he bought a minority share, and then I sold half of whatever the percentage was that he bought. I sold half, and then David, my business partner, sold the other half to make up that full percentage, and that money went in our pockets. And the thing that was cool about Jeff was the reason we did this with Jeff was because Jeff, and we've been approached by a bunch of other investors, and I don't want anyone's money. I don't want investor money in the business, and I don't really want anyone's money in general. I want our customers' money and whatever. But Jeff, of course, is a unique individual, and he didn't want any control over the company. So it was a very unique arrangement where we said, look, we're not selling this place. We're not going to go public. We're not like getting out in 8 years or whatever, or 7 years. We want to be in this for the long term, and he's a long-term guy. So we kind of resonated there. So we don't have a board of directors. We don't have a board, and so there's no board seat. There's no power. There was one provision in the contract, something about 7 years in, if things are going well and we all agree, maybe we could go public or something, which we didn't, and we didn't agree it was the right thing to do anyway. That was sort of it. And what's nice is for them, because we're an LLC and they own a small piece, they get distributions every year, just like I get distributions and David gets distributions. So they've made their money back many times over, and they still have all their equity. So they don't have to sell. There doesn't have to be an exit for them to make money off their investment. It's a really good situation for them. At the time, it was good for us. I'd like to buy them out, but they won't sell back to me. So we're stuck with them.
Question, in terms of marketing, have you done channels? Do you like channels versus direct? Any thought process around that aspect?
We've experimented with a lot of things over the years, paid ads, branded keywords, some brand campaigns that were more traditional. Nothing has worked for us that we can measure in a way that makes any sense to us. Part of the problem is that we are in a very competitive industry, and a lot of our competitors are venture funded and are happy to lose gobs of money acquiring customers. I'm not interested in losing a penny on why would I have a customer if I'm going to lose money on them? I don't understand that. It doesn't resonate with me. So like buying keywords and getting placement, it's so expensive for us in a way that just doesn't make sense. And our prices are so low compared to everyone else in the industry. Like Asana, for example, can sign up a contract 30, 40, 50,000 bucks a year. And so if they're going to do that, because of the way their pricing is set up and they sell to enterprises, they can afford to spend a few grand to acquire a customer. Like I can't afford to do that. The most you can pay us for Basecamp is 300 bucks a month. So that's it. I don't want bigger customers intentionally. So I can't really compete in that way. And also when we've tried, it's just like, it doesn't feel right. I also don't like paying Google and these big tech companies a bunch of money to like have us show up in their search results and whatever. Direct, we found the best way for us to grow is simply to build the best product we can, talk openly about how we build things, share our point of view, and our products have a word of mouth component to them because you have to use them with other people. And so other people get to see what it's like. You're invited into someone's Basecamp account. You go, oh gosh, I could use this for my own business. Things spread that way. I'm also not interested in like rapid, crazy growth. I want pretty steady, consistent growth. So word of mouth is a really good model for that. I'm really like the last person to talk to about like the way to grow your business through traditional or digital marketing. Because although we've grown our business that way, it's not been ads, it's all been writing and sharing.
Jason, thank you so much for your straight talk.
Where are you?
I'm here.
Okay.
Should I stand up?
No, it's okay. I can't.
I know, with the light. Thanks for your straight talk.
Thank you.
Sorry for beating the dead horse on whether or not to set goals here.
Sure.
I think that maybe implicitly you're saying is that you don't want to set really stringent goals. I'm just trying to understand because for many individuals, setting goals is to set something to motivate them to go the direction that they want to. Now, if numerical goals is not what works for you, could you share with us what motivates you to get up every day to do the things that you're doing?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a good question. There are inherent. I like to make great stuff. I like to make and exercise my craft to get better at my craft and make the best possible products I can. I'm motivated by the kick and the inspiration and the fire you get from solving problems, from making something better, from hearing from a customer who's asking for this thing, but going, you know what? That's what they're asking for, but they actually probably really mean this, and then you make something for them and they're happy with that and they get excited about that. We like to make great stuff. It is inherent to us to try to make great stuff with great people and do the best work we can. A number does not make me do that. A desire for pride in my work, the craft of it, the respect of it for myself, how I'm spending my time. I want to spend my time on doing the best work I can. And we hire people who want to spend their time doing the best work they can. It's a self-respect thing. It's a respect for customers. It's just a very different perspective than traditional business where you're going to set a goal, which is essentially a number for most people or some target of some sort, and then you strive for that. The striving for us is more inside than it is external, is all I can say. I know this isn't going to land well with some people who are very much goal-driven and very much believe in that. And if you do, you should follow that method. I just think that there are different ways to think about it. I think about it more in terms of craft, actually. Like, you think about a cabinet maker, furniture maker. They make this piece of furniture out of wood. They spend extra time on the joints. They spend extra time on the finishing. They know when it's right, They don't make that many of these things. They make enough. But they're not like trying to hit some quality number on their thing. They do it for the pride and for the respect of the wood and themselves and the time they spend and the things they've learned and the people who've taught them. It's a very different approach to it. So that's the best I can do. It's sort of a unsatisfying answer, I'm sure, in some ways, but that's it.
All right, Jason, I have an interesting question here. With your wife Andrea being head of people ops,
She's not my. I don't. That was on Google and not true, which is so interesting. Yeah,
gotcha.
I've always been like mystified by that.
Oh,
But
my
you can
bad.
ask about Andrea. Andrea is head of people ops. I'm just not married to her and have nothing to do.
Oh,
with
that's
that.
really strange.
We've tried to correct. Andrea and I have a big joke about that because we've tried to correct this, and it's just
Yeah.
yeah,
All right, we'll backpedal that one.
no problem.
Yeah, I guess we could pivot. I'd love to hear just how you balance like work and family. You know,
Sure.
with having young kids and like obviously how busy it has been and everything. What are some practices that you put every single day? Some good habits to stay present
Yeah.
in both worlds.
Yeah, this is a great question. So we basically expect people to work about 40-hour weeks. And in the summer, we do 32-hour weeks. So we don't work on Fridays in the summer. So we have 40 work weeks in the summer. And so we don't do all-nighters. We don't work on the weekends. Like, work is done at around 5. Now, people might start at different times, so maybe their work's done at 6 if they start at 10 or whatever. And it doesn't have to be a contiguous day. It could be 4 hours here, and then you pick your kids up at school and hang out with them for a while and put a few extra hours in at night. I don't care. What I do care is that you don't spend more than roughly 40 hours a week on work. I'm kind of a big believer in 8-8-8. 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of work, 8 hours of life. Of course, it's all life, but outside of work. And I think the key here too is tied to ambition, and it's tied to expectations, and it's tied to not. I mean, this comes all back to things that we're talking about here, which is like if you set some goal at some place and you're not quite there yet, and you got to push people really, really hard over the next 3 months to hit it, you're going to begin to compromise on your values because the number is what you're headed for. So you know what? You can work Saturdays. You can work late at night. I'm going to push you extra hard on the weekends because we just need to hit this number that we said we were going to hit. Otherwise, this whole year is a failure. These are the things that push people to give up on the basics that are important, which in my opinion is like 40 hours is enough. It's also a matter of trying to simplify things as best we can to make sure 40 hours is enough. We don't have meetings at work. We don't sit on Zoom calls all day. Everybody has about an 8-hour day to themselves. We don't share calendars. You can't take any of my time. I can't take any of yours. If you want some of my time or I want some of yours, you have to ask me. And then we have a conversation about time. Time is valuable. Everyone's like, time and money. Time. People protect their money. Like, they'll put it in a safe. But their time is available to anybody who just wants it. And so we're very careful about taking each other's time. That way we have enough time during the day so we can go home at the end of the day. That's the only way to balance it. Because typically, especially in America, work will always take more time from life than life's allowed to take time from work. So you have to really have the discipline to prevent work from getting out of control.
So you talk a lot about keeping your eye on the ball, like and where you are right now, but hindsight is 2020.
Yes.
Right? Is there any places that your gut has like led you wrong in hindsight? And then two, you talked about having fun with the job.
Yeah.
What are the fun parts?
I'll start with the second part. The fun parts are making things. When we make new things, I get excited. When a new idea is sparked and we're like, we're going to do that, we start making the product and we make it and we launch it. That's all the fun stuff. The stuff I'm less inspired by these days is maintenance work. I used to like that a lot. I used to like continuing to hone something, but I've kind of gotten back into wanting to make new things again. So we're going to launch 4 products this year. So like we're going to launch 2 at the same time. We're going to try to do that too. We've never done that before. So part of the fun is like trying to do things we haven't done before. So we're getting into that with the whole Once thing, which we just launched, once.com, is another one of these things where you actually buy software once. It's not SaaS. It's actually installable software. You pay for it once and you're done. So as far as gut leading me wrong, sure. I mean, there's a lot. We've made 8 or 9 products over the years. We've basically had 2 hits. So you could say like, are the 7? Did it lead me wrong? Like, I have a different point of view on this, in that I don't really think of things as wrong in a sense or mistakes. I just think some things work out better than other things. And so for me, like, we had some ideas for products that didn't really work out. Like, it wasn't that it wasn't worth doing them. I think it was worth doing them, and they just didn't work out. And so we were on to the next thing. It's a very, I tend to think about this in terms of like the way I think about, or the way like evolution works. Evolution doesn't really dwell on the past. It's just making things better over the future. If this wing didn't work out for this bird, well, then we made a new wing that works out better. Like, we're not like all sad about this wing that didn't work. So we don't do, also like, we don't do postmortems. We don't review projects that didn't go as well. We just keep moving on and moving on. I don't like this culture of dwelling in the past or dwelling on our failures. I think you learn a lot more from the things that work than the things that don't. But companies spend a lot of time paying attention to things that don't work. They think the lessons are in there. I don't think they are. I think you learn by doing new things, not by revisiting old things. So that's how I think about that. It's a good question, though. Yep.
Hey, Jason.
Hi.
Big fan, listen to the podcast all the time. You've also responded to a few emails of mine, so I really appreciate that. But my question is around, you said if you did exit Basecamp for one reason or another, you don't know what you would do next. Do you do any advising, angel investing? Like, would you stay in the business world? Because obviously, you know, if you're not working on your own thing, you got to do something with your time, right? Like, do you do that now, and or would you do that in the future if that was kind of where you found yourself?
I've been on a couple boards. I don't really like it, frankly. Maybe I just haven't been on. I've been on good boards. I just don't really like it. Actually, is a better answer. So that's probably not something I would do that much of. Maybe if a friend asked me or there was a really interesting opportunity, perhaps I would, but I wouldn't look for that. I don't really do any investing either. I have put some money into a few companies that are run by friends. So it's more like, I think of it more in terms of helping friends out versus like, I'm not an angel. I'm not going to listen to a pitch of a company that I don't know and I don't know the founder. I'm not going to put money in. I have way too much risk tied up in my own business. Now, if I wasn't doing that anymore, my own business, maybe, but I don't know. I still don't really feel like that's necessarily something I really would be interested in doing. I really, truly don't know what I would do, which is why I don't want to stop. Because hopefully I have some more years left, and I'd hate to like be bored. I know a number of founders who've sold their businesses and they've made plenty of money, and they're bored, and they never can get back what they had before. Never get back to that level again. Never have the influence or the relevance or whatever, or the fun, and they regret it. And I don't want to live that way. So I'm going to do this as long as I can, or as long as I feel like I'm capable. And then at some point, the business will be sold at some point, like, or we'll go out of business. One of the two. I don't know what the other options would be. Yep.
I think we have time for one more question, if anybody has one. Or there we go.
For the gut-like feeling, how do you develop that over time? And is that like a spiritual endeavor to like develop that sense of gut?
I think it's just a matter of practice. It's the same as I'm learning how to play drums right now, and I sucked at it. I still suck at it, but you as you do it more, with anything, you develop a feel for the nuances and that's how you do it, and that thing mattered and this thing didn't. Like, I was paying too much attention to my grip, and I was hitting the stick, hitting too hard, and I realized I had to lighten up. I thought and then when I learned I could lighten up, like, other doors opened. I was able to do more things, and so initially you pay attention to the wrong things, I think, in business, in a lot of ways. And then as you get into it, you realize your grip is too tight and you need to loosen up on certain things. And that's kind of how you develop it and how you develop anything. It's how you develop a taste for something or a talent for something is practice and over. So making more gut decisions, probably on things that are less consequential if you're nervous about doing it that way. And just like getting comfortable with the fact that, hey, this worked or this didn't work, but what's the worst thing that can happen? It didn't matter that much anyway. And you kind of build this confidence. So really gut-driven decision-making is about practice and confidence. Obviously, you want to get better and have a higher hit rate or whatever, but it's really about practicing confidence in making a call and not being afraid of making that decision. I think that's really what you need to develop.
All right, great. Final question. Thanks to the audience for all your questions. And let's give it up to Jason
Thanks,
Freed,
everybody.
co-founder of 37 Signals. Great way to start day 2 of SaaStock USA. Thank you so much.